allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Teresa.
Okay, 3.0 is to approve the meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I said that with zest, like I had a choice. I would have to second it.
Yeah, it's true. Those opposed, agenda is approved.
We
All right.
appreciate zest.
Yes, thank you very much.
I bring the zest to the school board
You do,
And other things.
you do.
and other things. That's right.
All right, 4.0 are acknowledgements and recognitions, and this evening we have one. Some additional zest to acknowledge tonight. We have Activities Director Stephen Anderson with us. Yep, come on up to the front row. Welcome. So we've got some exciting news this evening.
I just want to recognize all sports teams, our volleyball program, completed their first year with a brand new coach. Great participation numbers across the board from 7 through 12. Really exciting. Our boys and girls, cross-country teams did amazing with our boys advancing to the state level. And they worked really hard during their off season and during their season. And then our boys football team also advanced to the state level at the state quarterfinal level. And then we also have JV Knowledge Bowl just won their district section. I don't know how to phrase the Knowledge Bowl stuff, but they took home first in that today. So that's another exciting
Regional tournament, I think.
regional tournament. That's
Yeah.
and then we have also in our co-ops, our girls, we have co-op swimming and diving through 2 harbors. So the girls that are a part of that, there was one gal that was one of the alternates for that team to go to state as well through that cooperative with 2 harbors. So lots of great things, lots of good stuff happening in the school. Keep on working with participation numbers, and winter sports season and activities are ahead of us. Robotics just got started up and Knowledge Bowl is in the middle of everything, and boys and girls basketball began. Downhill skiing and Nordic skiing are both starting up too. So just needs snow for those last. I just want to congratulate all our students and the time that they put in, the coaches too. So, and then kind of outside of my realm, but just some other people that need acknowledgement, in my opinion. Jens Jacobson with all the support that he did for community ed stuff throughout the fall, and then Lacey Smith helping support all those other items too. So just a couple people that definitely deserve their recognition for time and energy they put into this building. So
For sure. Yeah, Chris and I were just commenting on how much activity is just going on in the building right now with all those activities. It's amazing.
yeah, for sure.
And well, congratulations for you jumping right in as the activities director. You get a lot of experience right out of the gate with teams going to state and figuring all that out. So that must be fun.
It's been a whirlwind trying to get my feet under the roof here, but we're making it work.
Yeah.
Teresa and Kay are very great supports down in the office, and so is Mr. Lindholm too. So got lots of help. So
Good.
Thanks for recognizing our kids. It's awesome on our programs. It was a great fall. So.
Great.
I love that.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, 5.0 are recognition of visitors and community comments. Community comments is an opportunity for the public to address the school board on an item included in the agenda in accordance with the guidelines printed at the end of the agenda. We don't have anyone signed up tonight, but we will just welcome all of our visitors as usual to our regular business meeting here in November 2025. We appreciate you being here. And for those of you watching online, we appreciate you too. And those of you watching in the future, welcome back to the past. And thanks for tuning in. All right. 6.0 are reports. 6.1 is the principal's reports in the packet, but Mr. Belangi is not here this evening. Was there anything you wanted to touch on beyond that?
I'll come back to that in my superintendent report and let Greta go first.
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll move on to 6.2, which is the student school board member report. We've got Miss Greta Youngdahl here with us this evening. Hello, Greta.
Hi. All right, Good afternoon or evening, everyone. I hope you all had a great November. This month has kind of been like slow for me. I feel like I don't have a lot to talk about, but it's also super full because it's the end of fall and beginning of winter. So we have fall sports wrapping up and winter sports kicking off. So our student athletes are very busy right now. First quick note is that all the students are very excited about the referendums, so that's fun. Moving on from that, as Mr. Anderson mentioned, our varsity football team ended their season on a high note. They won their section championship, which was really fun, and they went to the state quarterfinals where they played Kitson County. And even though it didn't end how we hoped, it was a super fun season, and they should all be super proud of all they accomplished. Winter sports are now officially underway, so we have Alpine, Nordic, basketball teams, and they all started their practices, I think this week, and then before that they had their captain's practice. So everyone's getting super excited, and hopefully we get some snow on the ground. We had a Veterans Day service, which we had a shortened scheduled day, which I think is working really well for students. I wasn't able to attend, but I heard good things about the service, so that was good to hear. At the start of this month, we welcomed 13 new members into the National Honor Society. This is a lot. Last year we had like maybe 7. Our induction night included a guest speaker. We had a great turnout. There was a lot of people, and we had cake, which was really good. And I'm really excited to see all these new members grow in leadership and service. And just last night, 6 of them had volunteered at Empty Bowls. So we helped with chair takedown and tables and cleaning and sweeping and dishes and all that. So that was good. And in all, even though November wasn't jam-packed with events, it was full of proud moments and lots of good energy. And we're all excited for Thanksgiving break next week. And as we head into December, I'm really looking forward to seeing our winter sports take off. And hopefully next month I'll have some fun stories for all of you. And until then, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And yeah, that's about all I got.
Or did you get to go to the football game?
No, I didn't. I was going to, and it was too far of a drive for me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did some students make their way over to it?
Yeah, there was a lot of kids. We had a fan bus too, so.
Yeah.
I think that was fun. I liked the idea of a fan bus, and I think a lot of the students appreciated that too. So.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah, there was a moment there when we thought the game was gonna be in Moorhead.
Hmm.
And I was like, no, we're not sending a school bus to Moorhead. 14 hours in a school bus sounds like torture. So when they flip-flopped the games and put us in Grand Rapids, then it was like, all right, we can do 3 or 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
That's just like the Gunflip Trail kids.
Right.
yeah. Easy.
Right.
Oh.
Thank you, Greta.
Yeah, thanks,
Have a
Greta.
good day.
Okay, 6.3 is the superintendent report.
Yeah, I'll highlight just a few things that Greta did not mention. Our 6th graders today pulled out of here at 4:30 this morning on a school bus to go to the Capitol in the morning, and then to go to the Guthrie in the afternoon. This is like the 3rd year now that Betsy and Melanie have done that. I think they're saints for taking 6th grade, the whole 6th grade class down, and they'll be back about 9:30 tonight. So that is a very long work day for them and for the bus driver and for all the folks involved in that. So kudos to those 2 for organizing that. You can see in Mr. Belangi's report that 25 Sawtooth students were honored for demonstrating Junior Vikings values this past month, and they're very intentional about engaging our elementary students in that monthly practice. And there was student council elections for Sawtooth, and it looks like there were 13 candidates. And it spells out, a few kiddos won. So we're really excited that Amanda Barris continues to lead student council for our elementary kids in that opportunity. Yes, we had parent conferences actually this week, last week, and the week before. But that was because we had to move one of them because of the football game in Grand Rapids. So it's stretched out over 3 weeks. So our faculty have been doing that over the last couple of weeks. Veterans Day program was mentioned 2 weeks ago when we had conferences and we had football and we had cross country. We also had guest authors here speaking with our Sawtooth kids, and then a Baziki concert on Friday afternoon. And I almost got choked up at the Baziki concert that was in the afternoon. I didn't go to the Saturday night one for the public. But it was pretty cool to see the entire auditorium full of the kiddos from Oshkie and Sawtooth all singing back to the singers in Ojibwe. It was like, wow, to find me another school where the kids can do that, and do it with full engagement. And I want to thank the North Shore Music Association, Barbara Jean Myers and her team for making that happen. It was a grant that paid for that or most of that. But talk about a really cool celebration for our kids.
I did go Saturday night and it was pretty amazing.
Amazing,
It was
wasn't
it was sold out. They were
Yeah.
turning people away.
Yeah, it was cool. I think it helped them that they did the Sawtooth concert because people were chattering about it.
Yeah.
About how cool it was on Friday afternoon, and I was blown away with what they taught the kids, and
She's interested in bringing it back next year.
Yeah.
For maybe a more
yeah,
longer period of time of engagement in the community and the kids.
yeah. But with all our kiddos taking Ojibwe, I mean, it just makes a lot of sense to apply what they're learning and in a different way. So it was just what a great thing. We had a couple fundraisers a lot tied to the conferences. That was for the Spain trip and for the Washington DC trip that are coming up. I think Washington DC is next year, and I think Spain is this spring break coming up this year. So that went well. And in that same week, we decided to pass a bond referendum and open bids for the one that passed a year ago. So it was quite a week that we had here a couple weeks ago. In my report, I share a highlight here about the bids that came in, and then just notification. It's on the agenda tonight that we're engaging in an agreement with North Shore Health for OT and PT services. We need about 8 hours a week of each. And so they're kind enough to let us contract with some of their staff that allows us to not have to do virtual services for our kids for the same price. So in person is always better. And we are in talks about an agreement for athletic training services that would be more robust and better due diligence on compliance with concussion protocols and record keeping and high school league rules. So we're working on that. We'll be meeting in December on the agreement and nuts and bolts. And I've got the activities director along with the nurse engaged in that conversation about that agreement. Other than that, we're looking for employees, bus drivers, paraprofessionals, day custodian, subs of all of those. And then we also have 2 teaching positions posted, one for a leave of absence coming up January through February, and then one for next year for art, for a 1-year position for the leave of absence that the board approved a couple months ago. That's all I got.
Okay. Oof. Thank you.
Busy place.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to 7.0, our consent agenda. If there's anything that needs to be pulled for further discussion right now, otherwise we just need a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Alright,
Aye. Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. All right, 8.0 are discussion and action items. 8.1 is to accept the expenditure and revenue report for October of 2025. It's here in the packet, and also here is Ms. Teresa Oberth. Hello. Audit,
Again,
post audit, Teresa.
Yeah.
audit, Teresa. Today is the day. It's like the celebration day because we're gonna stamp it, I think, at the moment, but I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. So the expenditure revenue report is pretty well, I think, basic and on track. However, Chris, Mr. Lindholm asked me a question and I said like, oh yeah, I don't know. He noticed that we are significantly higher in our revenue, and I'll draw your attention to that, but that is just property taxes were recognized in October versus November. So that is why there is such a huge difference in revenue over last year for the month of October. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that is outstanding unless you have any specific questions or curiosities about the expenditure revenue report.
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditure report.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right. 8.2 is to approve the fiscal year 2025 audit. All right.
For the public, I'd just share that we went through a full presentation of this 2 weeks ago at our work session, so the board has seen this in detail already and discussed it and asked questions of our auditors.
So let's see. Just looking at is there any other comments that you have on this?
No, none other than there's bound copies that you are welcome to take with you. They will always be in our office, so if the public has, curiosity about them, we do have copies in the office as well as they'll be posted on the website once they've been approved.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, and it's just worth noting that there were no abnormalities or anything in the audit. Everything came back clean and in order.
Yep, that was pretty standard audit that we've had, pretty boring per se.
It was.
But yeah, there's, like I said, copies and we'll be posting it, so. there's-
It will be posted to our website for sure.
All right, well, thank you.
oh, do you need a motion to approve it?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got it.
Okay, any further discussion? Besides, thank you to Ms. Oberg for all of her
I gotta
work.
get
Well
that.
done.
Matt, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, motion carries. All right. 8.3 is to approve the OTPT agreement with North Shore Health. That here is in our packet as well.
And as I commented earlier, we're trying to get into this to be able to flex back and forth. We got into the discussion when I discovered that our SLP and our OT were working for the hospital over the summer. And I was like, wait a minute, we can go the reverse because they have a lot of crunch time in the summer and we have higher needs, obviously, during the school year. So I'm happy to be engaging in this versus virtual services for our students.
It's way better.
Way better for our kids. And I would expect that in the future, this might fluctuate, it might be 2 days a week, 1 year, and one to, just depending on the needs of kids and how this flows. But I'm grateful to Patrick for setting this up. And this was, the agreement itself was put together by their legal counsel. And then I read through it and offered a little bit of feedback, and we took out a couple things that were not appropriate.
So how does payment occur, Chris?
They invoice us, I believe, monthly.
And is that based on a rate that the
Based on
school
a-
usually pays, or is it the hospital's rate?
They matched the rate that we were paying for virtual OT services
Okay,
and PT
nice.
services,
Nice.
which was less than what they originally wanted, but I said, I don't want to pay more. So they matched it.
Good. I was just trying to scan through here.
And is that rate
$109 an hour.
$109? Is that just, is there like a term for this? Or is that?
Yeah, the term is 1 year, so we'll have to re-up it.
Okay,
The rate is in Exhibit B, which is way at the end.
yeah, it's the last page, yeah.
Monthly statement to the district.
Yeah.
Showing.
We have a lot of kids that will be participating in this.
Yeah, we have a full-time OT and our needs outstrip that full-time position by about a day a week. It's essentially like a 0.2 FTE.
Well, they do a good job over there.
They do.
I've been a frequent flyer of theirs.
But we don't get into that. And just to be clear, this is a 0.2 PT and a 0.2 OT. It's 0.4 total cost.
Gotcha.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Alrighty. Let's get into the fun stuff.
Yes.
All right, 8.4 is a discussion on the 2025 bond referendum, and we've got Lori Christensen from ICS here. Come on up. Hand at you.
Thank you, thank you. All right,
How are you doing?
good.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, exciting to be here. Yeah. Chris did
I'm working
have.
on it. I'm trying to, there we go. That's the right.
There we go. So tonight I just wanted to, talk about the recent success of the district and just kind of go through some next steps and just kind of what to expect. So congratulations. Yeah, November 4th was a fun night, and it was fun to see the success of, you had the one question on the ballot. It was the all mail-in ballot, so that was, typical for you as a district, but unique to kind of know where residents, is different than a year ago. So anyway, so congratulations on being successful, and it was a 52-47 success rate. And I did just have to look back for my own just knowledge. And last year at this time, you remember, it was just a close margin. It was almost like flip-flop. But we did have more voters last year. So it's like 1677 to 1845, so we did have more voters, but the ones that showed up this time, we flipped it. So congratulations. And good work for everybody out there communicating. I did hear there was a lot more just positive, support between the district, between, on their own time, obviously, but just having that one step further communication outside of just what a district can do on information. So that was fun to see. And then the really exciting part is now the hard work that you guys put towards receiving the IRRB grant. You guys get that $5 million. So this is pretty unique, and I don't want to say you'll never see that again, but it's not easy. So congratulations to you as a board and administration, Chris, to go after that and then actually see it success and be able to receive it. So that's really exciting for you as a district. The other one too that it unlocks is that the LCCMR grant, that will be part of it too. So, okay, so just as a highlight, if you remember what was on the ballot, this is now going to let you as a district invest in your Arrowwood Center for Arts. So that's where we're going to get the new seating, so you can be more flexible seating. We have some new lighting, and we have that catwalk. So that's going to create a safer access to rigging and lighting and overall production. So that's pretty exciting. The outdoor learning spaces, we have a couple different areas outside that were identified as improving the opportunities for students, and what that looks like isn't 100%. That's what we moving into next to understand what those spaces would be and what kind of amenities they have. This also has some of those improvements to your trails. So upgrading your bridges and the access into your trails and forestry. And then probably the most dramatic, like that would maybe be recognized from outside, is this providing the new track. And that would be going around a new football field that would be turf. So you guys get that opportunity to have more practices, multi-sports on that field, and also improving just your amenities around there. So you would have improved concessions. We have new bleachers that are ADA compliant. You'll have some storage areas, and then along with all of your track
throwing events, you'd have a spot for those. We also included in this, yeah, you have the new lighting, and then over at your baseball field, you'll also get the new lighting. We have some drainage improvements for safer field play, and then those bleachers that are ADA compliant. And this is just kind of what was out as you guys were communicating it over the fall. This is a visual of where, highlighted where those things, those.
What are those little like echo looking things in the grass?
That's gonna be your discus and then
Oh,
your
that's right.
shot put.
Okay.
Yep. And keep in mind, this is still conceptual, so we're kind of looking, but discus, it is not uncommon that that could go into a different field. Sometimes we see it in an outfield, sometimes we see it going onto a football field. So really you have your fencing and your base, but then to throw it into a different field is kind of common. So just because the distance that you need. But it is conceptual. So, you know, things as we get into user groups will be a little more defined on location. Okay, so as we kind of look at next steps, so this process is probably really familiar because I was looking at it was, you know, yep, a year ago. So that was really cool. So again, beings with the size of the projects and, you know, this will go through a whole design process. And what that entails is we'll go back to the programming to understand, you know, really working with your, the users to understand what they need. And then if we need any site prep, luckily you know, you guys were smart last time and you did the surveys and you did soil borings. So some of that information is readily available and we don't have to rush it before the snow flies. So you might be a few steps ahead on that already, which is fantastic. And then we'd move into design. And design, we have the 3 phases again. Just keep in mind, this will probably be a little bit faster design just based on the scope. So if it's 4 to 6 months, you know, and some of that has to do with just making sure we get all the user group meetings in. But it will be faster going through that process on each one of the phases. But again, similar to last time, the approval process that we followed last time from the board and the POC, we would still have. And then finally, we would move into the construction, which we consider the public bidding, and then construction administration.
I mean, it's obviously more abbreviated. You're not tearing up plumbing and HVAC and a lot of other things. But how would you see this being, you know, matched up with the current construction plan that start next fall or next year? Or
What's the next slide?
Yeah, you brought me right to the next slide. Yeah. Yes,
So
yeah. And that's been some discussions we've been having, you know, how can we, you know, we knew that this going back right away would give you that efficiency of getting, we already have, you know, getting it part of the other projects. And just, this is still tentative just based on what our design team, I really like the POC and the design team to finalize this, but the early conversations, so here we are, you know, in December, or come December, we'll have a kickoff meeting internally with our team once again to get the architects and engineers up to speed on what was included. We will have an amendment to the current AIA contract, and that is so we, you know, the design team can have its added scope, so then it would be added fees on that. So looking at coming back in December for that approval. And then I'll get to your answer real quick here, okay? I started at the top, but I will get to it, I promise. And then our design starting right after, you know, in December, looking at probably those user group meetings, January to March, maybe, you know, maybe it goes April, but I think we could capture what we need in that time. And again, you guys are already meeting as that project oversight committee. This would be folded into that. So we have the same team at the table. We just fold this added scope into the conversations. Jason, you know, maybe could speak that a little more, but I'm sure, you know, we're not gonna have multiple meetings. We're not gonna double them, right? So let's just make it as efficient as we can. And then you can see really the design we feel could be ready potentially by spring. But we would want to be strategic on how and when we bid it. A lot of times you have about 6 months once you've bid it to then start work. So you don't want to bid it in June and say you're gonna start work in May. You know, that might be a little too long of a gap there. But we also want to leave in some opportunity to, could we start some work in the fall of 26? And what that might look like is maybe at least clearing trees, maybe getting your site prep a little bit more ready. So from the spring of 27, you can jump right into the dirt work and do a, construction. That being said, I don't want to promise that, but it could be an option. And we also may want to look at, if you're in contract with some of the current contractors, is there a change order to maybe one of their agreements, and they would be on site already, and we could have some efficiencies of them doing that work. So those are things that the POC would be discussing further and looking at. We also know, so all along, we really had been looking at like true construction starting spring of 27 and then wrapping up the fall of 27. And I say fall, but let me just clarify that. We don't want to start till after the football season of 26. Let's get those, they had a good season this year. Let's make sure that next year they have a home turf that they can continue to play on. And then the goal would be to get them back on the surface in the fall of 27 for that season. That would be the goal. We are up against weather, so there's things that could be a challenge. And if they don't get in August, do they get in on September? So they could have partial season on there. And
Does
we
the
would,
whole thing have to be completed to play football on it, or is the track separate?
that's a great question. I would say it'd have to be a safe area. And then if you think of your bleachers and spectators attending, the original concept is you walk in, there's a ticket booth, you go around the track to get to the bleachers and concession. I think it might be a little hard if it wasn't. Now, if it's not painted, if the track isn't painted, there could be some minor things that we could get away without having 100% done. Good question though, Eric. Yeah. And then the other ones too is like the baseball field. We were just running around the ideas like, well, maybe we could do it the summer of 26. It's not major work, but we also we're also looking at the seasons, like when, which groups are going to be using that. And if you were going to capture some of your contractors for this current project, we do have to be careful that we're not overloading them for one summer. We already committed quite a bit of work for them. We don't necessarily want to throw more on their plate and then have a risk of some of your building stuff not being good. And I just say this out loud because these are all the conversations we've had so far, and these are the things that we'll just continue to discuss. Performing arts, that schedule too, we want to meet with, what is that? What are your performances? When are they? And that work we could kind of play around to. When do we want to schedule that kind of work? And then finally, your outdoor learning areas. And this one might be the most likely to fold into the current contractors, just beings, especially that front entrance, just beings with that, canopy area already being torn up. Does it make sense to them adding in some work? So.
And that's also like a separate grant too, right?
Yes, yep. Yes, thank you, Jason. The thing we have to be careful about too is the current project you have is not mandated to have prevailing wage or name it again, the
Project labor agreement.
project labor agreement. It's not mandated to, but once we introduce or bid out a project with the IRRB dollars and the LCCMR grant, now you start having to have that. A lot of your contractors will already be there, so that's okay. But we just have to be careful that we can't award it to someone if they're already in contract without that in place. We can't award this if we're using grant dollars.
That's a requirement of IRRB and the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not ICS, but yeah, that's, yeah.
I did not know that.
It's not for a bond referendum money though.
No, not for a bond, no.
Some districts do.
Some, yes, some,
The county projects, they have to be.
They have to be.
because of the tax. Okay.
Duluth is having that discussion right now. I think I just heard Hibbing has a prevailing wage policy. The board is actually a policy at local level. But most don't.
So with the contractors that are currently the low bids, you know, the high level contractor does employ union labor, but some of their subcontractors, we don't know. So that's where the details are gonna have to be kind of ironed out a little bit more.
Sure. Interesting.
That's,
Else? Oh.
yeah, any questions? That's all I had for.
But this, it's more like a comment about scope. A few weeks ago, we had people that represent bike, you know, kids biking trail stuff here.
Okay.
And they were all about, gee, can we use part of your school forest to put trails in there for little kids? And I was like,
For mountain biking.
the mountain bike, and I'm like, I think that's kind of putting the cart before the horse. I think I would like to see some sort of general plan for how we're gonna use that space, or what our vision is for that space, before we let special interest group do their thing, and then that opportunity is taken away from us. So I don't know if that's the scope when we're talking about outdoor learning space areas, but even if we don't develop all of it, having a bit of a plan of what we want to do with that space, what the purpose is, how we might visualize it over time being developed. If there's a space for bike users, I just think that would be a good thing to come out of this, if that's in scope of what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good discussion.
When we say outdoor learning spaces, it has typically been in the first referendum and then, you know, kind of the conceptual in the second referendum. It was about the school garden area and about a learning space out in the main front entrance. And that was about classes going outside and using it as an outdoor learning space. The LCCMR grant was specific to the school forest and outdoor learning spaces. And I have another email
updates.
today for another revision of that grant. And it seems like it's monthly that I'm constantly tweaking that. But to your point, Rena, we've got bond dollars, we've got LCCMR dollars. And then we have these outside folks wanting to be at the table for that conversation. And you know, I think the outdoor learning spaces up here, the garden in front, that's gonna be more of a user group around what our teachers gonna do.
Exactly.
And then as budget unfolds, then how much money do we have to work with for the forest? And what have we put in that grant already as kind of a commitment? We have to honor that. And then the people that are coming at me about this biking question are both the Gregs who were here at the board meeting, and then Shane Steele he's now working for the North Shore Cycling Club. What's the trail? The North Shore.
So like.
The Get You Going.
The Get You Going.
Yeah. That group, he's paid to do some work for them. And then there's a gentleman, you would know, Steve then or something, with Soil and Water. I'm blanking on his name. He is working with, yeah, that guy. He's working with Mike Teisman on trying to pursue some grant dollars. And that's for cleaning up the school forest, taking care of the forest, using Soil and Water grant dollars. So there's all these conversations spinning, and we need to have an effective user group that does that big picture.
Yeah.
What is our goal here?
Yeah, and you know, when the presentation that we saw a few weeks ago, they came in with a plan for where they were gonna put paths in and
Right.
cutoffs, and I'm like, it's too soon.
Yeah.
Way too soon.
And, you know, because I think, you know, the forest is really should be about education. And yes, it's also recreation and whatever else, but it should be about education. How do we want to use it? And if you've got bikes and, you know, going around, does that discourage other things if that becomes the primary.
Part of that grant that we wrote included a reach out to Eric about in your day job, about helping us use the forest for teaching Ojibwe history and culture and values and plants and, you know, all the things and incorporating that. So we just have to make sure we're including all of these things.
Before you give it to.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so having I think a clear vision of what we want to use that forest for,
Mhm.
before we start introducing ideas that map line with that vision or don't. I think if that's in scope here, I'd like to make sure we're having that conversation.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I briefly remember there was a talk about this bike even a year ago. And wasn't there discussion like, could it go into some land you own west or behind the school? I
Right,
can't
over
remember.
across
Across the road, like that it wouldn't, you know, risk a biker, a kid out in the forest doing some educational thing and a biker coming flying by, you know, I mean. I thought that was a discussion
It
at
was
one
mentioned.
time.
It was mentioned.
And I don't think we went anywhere, but. it
No,
was- Yeah,
they were very interested in that, but
okay,
that might be their option when it
Just-
comes down to it. I think, I mean, having a school forest is a very unique thing. And I think we need to be good stewards of that and not lock into something that limits us otherwise.
Well, thank you. So we should expect December 11th, some amendments and some contracts and then we kick off.
I would say, I guess, more of a comment as well, that to the extent that we can leverage the existing work and contractors, I mean, I think it's a worthy effort for us to do that, to find those efficiencies, you know, whether that is conversations that we need to start having with those I mean, we haven't awarded the bids yet, but
I think we will be utilizing those contractors for estimating and budgeting along the way. And for some of these pieces, if we identify an efficiency in the schedule that benefits them in a certain way, and that their budget actually aligns with, you know, our expectations, you know, then we'd be able to manage, trying to piece those parts together to keep things going efficiently on site.
yeah. For sure. I mean, it seems like. Yeah, so to whatever extent we need to kind of grease the skids on that, you know, sort of from that perspective, you know, now, just so that we can be sort of thinking about that as these other you know, because really there's an intersection here between this project and the project that, you know, the bids just went out for, just in terms of, you know, as we're sort of navigating, you know, where the bids came in at, what's the cost, like, and we're trying to be creative about making sure that we get everything as close to as we hope to do. You know, I just want to make sure again that there's some potential interplay here that maybe we can mitigate some of those impacts, you know, and hopefully mitigate higher bids, you know, for this project as well.
Yep.
So, but I mean, I know that's all the stuff that you guys do, so, but just worth reiterating that to the extent that we can push on the gas a little bit to kind of make it happen here, you know, it seems to make sense to me. So. Okay, well, we'll segue right into that conversation. So thank you, Lori, for teeing that up and then
Coming all the way over.
coming all the way up here.
I,
So 8.5 is our discussion regarding the 2024 referendum and the bids, and we've got Jason here from ICS as well.
Printed it up, but I did also include the bid tabulation, so I don't know if you guys have formally got that. Chris, if you want to leave this one again on the Zoom. I tried to connect and it seemed like it was a little bit jittery.
Let me agenda here. My screen.
So we did go over a lot of this same information in the POC meeting. But we will go through it again here in a bit more of a condensed version. So we're gonna review the bid process, the low bids, the budget, alternates that were included in the bid solicitation, the value engineering, and then next steps. So regarding the bid solicitation, so we divided the project into 6 work scopes: site work, precast, general construction, fire protection, mechanical, and electrical. We did receive 15 bids, and each work scope received multiple bids. So we did have a good bidding process here. We did receive multiple bids. The total of the bids ranged from 21 million to 25,375,000. Again, the bid tabulation here was kind of distributed to everyone, kind of outlining, you know, the different contractors that bid on the project and their alternates along the way here. So regarding the low bids for earthworks is Northland Constructors. They're from Duluth. For precast concrete, which is the gym construction, that is Moline. For general construction, it is BCI. They're out of St. Cloud area. For fire suppression, that is Escape, and they're out of Duluth. A.G. O'Brien for a mechanical, they're out of Duluth. And finally, for work scope 6, we have electrical with Hunt Electric, and they're local here. So we have a base bid total of 21,043,000. We are carrying $200,000 here for security and cameras. So those material items for security and cameras were not included in the construction bids, and we will solicit that as a separate work scope in the coming weeks and months here when we refine our requirements for that. So regarding the construction budget, this project had a construction budget of $17,662,701. And we were carrying a bid contingency of $1,114,085. So that bid contingency was uncommitted funds on our previous budget. So that brings the budget total here to $18,776,786. So with that, our bids are higher than our budget, and we have a plan here to align our construction costs with our budget. The first thing we'll do is we'll review the initial budget, the alternates, again, that were included in the bidding, value engineering, and then finally input from the school. Regarding the preliminary budget review, so we did review our budget that we've been carrying for the last year. And some items had been adjusted The first one here is the bonding referendum was increased by $43,108. Lori, can you comment a bit on that one?
The bonding increase?
Yes.
So the, on bid day with a lower interest than expected, is that what that is?
When, yeah, the sale of the bonds
Or lower than? Or the interest
in
rates were
favor,
lower?
yes.
Okay,
So you have some extra funds?
I think actually opposite.
and then there was interest earnings that were increased, so we increased the funding by $50,000 for the interest earnings. Energy rebates were also increased by $20,000.
Is that doesn't include the solar panels, right?
No, that is just federal
Okay.
rebates.
Like on different kind of LED lights.
Correct, so with replacement of lighting, they do a 1-for-1, so however many watts the current light uses, there's a rebate associated with that. We have ICS project efficiencies, so that is site services and general conditions that would be overlapping on this first referendum and the second referendum. So work that would be completed in the year 2027. That it has a value of $400,000. And we also reduced the project contingency on this project by 200,000, so from 1 million down to 800,000. And finally, the outdoor learning space. So we were carrying the cost for this outdoor learning space in the first referendum, but we didn't actually have a scope of work for it. So that money will be shuffled with the second referendum. The total funding adjustments are $963,000. So here on the right, on the top right, we have our initial budget. We're adding the 963,000 and getting our total available budget up to 19,739,000. Regarding alternates, so these were alternates that we included in the bid solicitation. Items such as changing the material type for the windows, utilizing air conditioning in the student services area instead of operable windows, and utilizing some existing equipment related to mechanical and electrical gear. So if we were to accept all of those alternates, that would reduce the bid value by $278,000.
For Eric's sake, I want to point out that what's not listed here is that the flex room by the cafeteria was a alternate ad. And so that's already off the table. Because that was a big one. That was like $500,000.
We talked about that last week. And
Yeah, we did. I just want to make sure.
So now after those
So far,
alternates,
that's the only big chunk that's just
Big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
no, that's okay. So with considering those alternates, we're still our bid value is still high by $1,224,000. And that amount of funding is either needed for the project or we need to reduce the scope of work to align the construction with the cost of the budget. So my team, ICS, the architect, DSGW, and the POC working group, we have identified areas of work that can be reduced while maintaining the overall goals of the project. So we did work through a list last week on the 13th. So the next steps here are for my team to evaluate the impact of the cost reductions that we discussed. And to provide a recommendation to the school board at the next meeting on December 11th to proceed with the contracts for the low bid contractors. So at the next meeting, we will discuss these contracts for the next, I'm sorry. At the next school board meeting, we will discuss these contracts. So the contracts that we issue to the contractors will be based on the low bid value from bid day. The contractors will then have to adjust the scope of work to align with the budget after the contracts are awarded. So we cannot negotiate the price with them before the contracts.
So approve bids and then start negotiating
Correct.
to align budget.
So I'm having discussions with them, but it's a very strict, line that, has to be maintained with that.
Sure.
So at the December board meeting, you look for approval to award the low bid with the acknowledgement that we'd be working towards that 1.2 million of reduction. Is that correct?
Correct.
Teresa?
Yep.
And is it safe to assume that that is somewhat of a standard practice that happens in these scenarios where you're overbid? You have to issue the contracts, but you're able to get there in terms of them
Within a publicly bid project, that's the only option.
Yeah,
The only option is to accept your bid or reject it.
sure.
With that being said, there will be language within the contract that no money can be spent until the budget is aligned and accepted by the school board.
And generally are these contracts on fixed bids? Like they say, cost X to do this, and something goes south that on their end, that they haven't estimated right, it's a fixed bid.
Yeah,
Unless there's actually a change order.
it's,
Yeah, you gotta do a change.
Okay.
it is a fixed bid.
So it's technically, we accept the bid for 21 million, so we're like technically on the hook for 21 million. But
No,
we're
there's
gonna go back
But
and
if you have language in there that
Yeah.
says
say we're gonna readjust the budget afterwards.
readjust the
Agree.
scope basically to that.
And then construction and procurement would not proceed until that budget was aligned and accepted by the school board.
Okay. Okay.
So regarding these contractor negotiations. So those negotiations would take place after their contract was issued. And there's minimal risk of any there's minimal risk of aligning this budget after the contract. There is language within the contract where the school can terminate the contract for convenience. So if for some reason we felt like the contractor was not being fair on a particular item and we could rebid this, then, that could be our position.
Sure.
Reviewing the costs that have come in here, the low bids are generally several $100,000 lower than the next bid up. So to be in that position, I think would be pretty, it's gonna be hard for the next guy to make up that ground. I did include the budget summary here. Next, put it this slide. This just shows us, all of the items we just discussed and how things would come into budget here if we took those deductions and reduced the scope of work. And the last slide here is a list of the value engineering items which we have reviewed through the POC. Again, none of these items have been accepted. That process would happen after the contracts were awarded. And then the change orders would be reviewed again by the school board.
So would you see the approval of this list taking place like at the board meeting in January?
What I think would happen is we would issue these contracts. There would be language in there saying we would like to see a certain dollar value reduced in these areas of work. The contractor would then have a couple weeks to provide those suggestions back to us. And then, early January, I think they would have
Something back to us.
something back to us to review.
And then POC would be working through that to tighten up the number and ultimately approve change orders? Is that what it would look like?
Yep.
Okay,
This first round of change orders will be, that 1,224,000. So it would be a pretty significant,
so sometime in January or at the latest, early February.
I would think this really needs to happen, with pretty good speed here to keep some of these guys on
Moving.
Yep.
Okay, that gives me a time frame.
Cause they'll wanna be starting to submit, submittals to the architects and engineers for approval, so they get their material ordered, get their stuff going, so. Yeah, Jason's right, we'll wanna make sure we just get them locked into what things are gonna be used, so then they can start working.
Yeah, I was just thinking about board planning. We have work session January 8th, board meeting January 22nd. I'll just kind of plan that out in my head.
So some of this has to go back to the architects, so to do more schematics, like changes in the showers or different things that we talked about.
Yep, some of this will go back to the architects. Some of it will be contractor directed. If they say, hey, we can take $200,000 of work out of tile. We'll say, okay, but you need to show us how you got there, and then we can review that and say, yes, that's acceptable, or
Lighting's another example. Sometimes electrician will say, hey, this is a really good light, this is what was spec'd. But if we could go with this light fixture, we could save X amount of dollars. Those are good ones too, if they have, a cheaper one that is still good quality. Nothing would be approved until the engineers say, yeah, that is good quality. We don't want something put in that would then have to be replaced.
So there's this process is sort of happening. We're going through a process of identifying items that we think would get us there.
Yep.
We've looked at that list a couple of times already, it's here. But what you're saying is that we would after the contracts are issued, we would also go back to the contractor and say, listen, we need to find, $1 million. What do you suggest?
we're gonna tell them the areas we want them to look in. We're gonna say basketball hoops.
Okay, so we're kind of guiding that with this list. We're not, okay.
But there are some things we said, in the group that we were willing to cut back on.
Yep.
And those would already be taken off of that before you go back to them. Like, for instance, solar panels, where you're kind of like, yeah, there's no rebates for that right now, so
Well, I did follow up with the state. And there are still the rebates, and it did seem like a very feasible and practical thing to
Okay,
continue with, but
okay,
certainly, whatever the cost is, that's kind of the bottom line, so I'm sharing that information with Chris to kind of keep things going.
okay.
So we would issue the contracts, the contractor would provide the cost for these items. There would be some design changes to hold them accountable to deliver, a certain product that we all agreed was acceptable. And then we would proceed.
Now, I know that there's a couple of, these reductions maybe touch all the work scopes to a certain degree. Some of them are more sort of concentrated on one work scope or another, right?
Yep.
Depending on what it is, it might percolate out into others as well. But again, kind of going back to what I was saying before to Lori, as we're kind of shaking these guys down, let them know we've got this other project coming. So if there's any efficiencies we're gonna see here, guys, on being able to kind of cut some of this cost, let's kind of keep that conversation going with those guys as well.
So I can have.
Cause I just try to think about what would have happened if question 2 would have passed last year? Where would we be at? What would the timeline look like? What would the bidding have looked like? What would the capacity of the
Don't
contractors
do
been?
it, not healthy, don't do that.
Well, no, I'm just saying
What if?
they would have bid on this whole thing. It would all been kind of folded in together. How are they resourced within their organizations in terms of capacity and that sort of thing? Presumably, there would have been contractors, maybe these same ones, so that would have said, yeah, we can kind of do all this within this sort of same time period. So, I realize they're kind of staggered, but again, let's kind of keep the pressure on in terms of that is a little bit of a carrot, and working with us on this side of it as well. That's my
I just kind of wonder how much pressure any entity can exert in 2025 on any contractor. Seems like it's their world, no matter if it's us as individuals, as organizations, they call the shots.
Honestly, though, I know. Well, maybe we can't exert pressure, but maybe we can ask for sympathy.
Thanks.
They don't feel guilty that they're depriving children.
Yeah.
So that strategy, I think, should be talked through, probably right after this December 11th review, once we're ready to move forward, we should have a really good discussion about how to leverage that opportunity. As I'm looking at the construction schedule, the work inside the building with the new gym ends, probably the heavy work ends around January.
Yeah, midwinter.
And there's not a lot going on from January until June, right? So
Maybe
there
they
is a
just
good
start
opportunity
hauling dirt.
there.
Yeah.
Just start hauling dirt out there.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot.
Well, that, you say that in jest, but
I'm not saying
yeah.
just.
we talked about moving trees, at the end of the summer or the fall in 2026. That might allude, work well with hauling dirt through the winter and when roads are frozen and weight restrictions are not in place. Those are good thoughts,
For sure.
good thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like our list is a pretty solid list. It's gonna get us pretty close to where we want to be with this, so.
So we'll talk here back on December 11th about the things on this list that needed clarity from DSGW and will that come back to us on December 11th or will that?
The things I felt like really needed a bit more clarity were related to the size of that Ojibwe room. And I think that discussion on its own would probably wait until we see how everything else kind of
shakes out.
Shakes out, yeah.
So for Eric's sake, it comes down to using the current external wall. That's there, or adding square footage and building another one, and which is costly. So that's where that conversation came about.
Yeah.
And the messiness of the roof lines, how they come together right there,
So that's not really a design effort they want to move forward with until,
unless they have to.
yep.
Yeah,
So that, I pushed that way to the bottom of my list here, you
got
know,
it, got it.
pretty impossible to discuss how that would look without some, you know, design work.
So those roof lines coming together, was that part of the other reason why it has that elevated thing with the windows and? Or unrelated? Isn't there like a,
Kind of the skylight around
Yeah.
in the circle.
Those are separate,
okay,
because the skylight thing is up over the ACK,
okay,
and that was trying to be culturally relevant.
yeah,
The Ojibwe room, there's the wall between them. And then the Ojibwe room, originally it was the current exterior wall. And then in the user group meetings and stuff, it was like, no, let's make that a little bigger and then have a place for the eagle and have a place to display stuff. Well, that, I remember the comment from ICS, I think it was Damien, he looked at the architects, he's like, you just added a whole bunch of money. Cause architects do that, right? That they design stuff and then the construction people actually cost it all out and go, yep, that's added square footage, that's gonna be expensive.
Yeah, other items like the canopy, the front canopy, and simplifying that, we really wouldn't have options on what that you know, what kind of cost reduction that would be until after.
I thought that was just gone,
The canopy?
yeah.
No.
Oh, there's still a canopy, okay.
Yeah.
No, we talked into POC about, is there a way to do it cheaper? We still want the canopy, we still want the 7 pillars going down both sides, we want that, but do we play with the roof line? Do we make it more of a
Make it a
facade,
different material.
different material?
That it's maybe less expensive.
Yeah,
But no, we were pretty much, you can't get rid of that.
Hmm.
Plus, I mean, most of what people have looked at in all of these renderings
That's
is
the,
that, so you
yeah.
can't suddenly take that away. But we don't want to anyway. I mean, I think it was symbolic and that was a hard no from us at the POC. As well as changing that light, that raised roof
yeah,
in the Ojibwe,
so that's still in there.
the Schnabel.
Yeah, but we will consider, you know, simplifying it. You know, if there's a cost savings that we felt was appropriate and well, and it's still provided, you know, the final product you guys are looking for.
Right,
Well, architect John, he was made the comment though, that that's a complicated spot sort of regardless.
He
Even
did.
if we just keep the existing wall, there's issues with that they're
He did.
grappling with. So bumping that wall out kind of helps in some ways with some of those problems. So it's you know,
Yeah.
it might end up being a horse apiece
right,
depending on what the details of that are. So,
that's a tough spot.
yeah.
So when do we need to make a decision about whether we're gonna allocate LTFM dollars to reduce the reduction in scope through value engineering?
So I don't think that discussion is really necessary until we go through the contracting process.
Approve the
and Have them
bids.
really. Yep, align the value engineering with the budget.
Cause then we can say, no, take that off,
Yeah,
because we have $200,000 or $300,000 in LTFM dollars that we could invest into the process. Okay, so you would need an answer by early January. And that's something for Eric, the board, Terry, Quinn to consider. We have a decent fund balance in the LTFM, but more importantly, you get that revenue every year. And in theory, we shouldn't have to do much deferred maintenance because that's what a big chunk of this project is. So our needs for those funds should be bumped out far enough that we can safely tap a couple of years of those funds, those
what's that
revenues.
again, ballpark?
160,000 a year in revenue that we get.
So 250,000.
So you could, if it was 3 years worth, you could throw $400,000 at it. And it's a reasonable bet to say we shouldn't have to spend much over the next 4 to 5 years on an LTFM. So that's why I asked that question, and I do think my recommendation will be to allocate some of those dollars into the project to save us from having to not do a canopy or do some of the things that are really important in this project. A fair amount of the locker room work being done could be paid for out of LTFM, you know, because it's remodeling our current bathrooms. Gender neutral bathrooms are a legit LTFM expense, for sure. So there's lots in this project that go that direction. One big one that also went off the table in here, I don't know if it was made clear, is the gender neutral bathrooms for the elementary area is one of the value engineering things to take off the table. We were gonna do one side of the 2 sides. If we want to reduce, that's the easy one to reduce. So then all of the secondary bathrooms would be, or a lot of them would be gender neutral, single use. All right,
Yeah, it was a really productive meeting the last time.
BOC meeting. So tonight, we're not doing any action.
No,
You're looking for any feedback from us tonight?
no, I'm in a good spot here. I feel
Getting us
like
up to
direction.
speed.
Yep.
All right, well, good deal. Any other questions for Jason on this topic? All right, thanks for making the trip out.
Sure, thank you.
Seeing you guys again soon.
And around the corner.
Okay, we got a couple more things here on the agenda, so we'll move on to those. 8.6 is to accept the donations for November of 2025. We've got a resolution in our packet.
See ya.
See you guys, thank you.
Yeah. Caribou Highlands, North Shore Credit Union, the Wise Women, and I don't know the first one, Travel Club. So it's 2. That's what it's 2. Who's it from?
In memory of
Lori and Glenn?
Irene Peterson.
In memory of Irene Peterson.
It was from their family.
Got it.
Nice.
I'll make a motion with gratitude, with appreciation, all that.
I'll second that, and I would also add my gratefulness to this. It's always nice when people invest in our students.
Any further discussion? More gratitude?
More
For
gratitude.
gratitude.
Thank you so much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, 9.0 are personnel items. 9.1 is our slate for this month here in the packet.
Just I'm happy to celebrate Teresa England applied for and is being hired as our new admin assistant in the school office starting in January. We'll have about 2 weeks of overlap with Cindy Everson, and they'll be doing some training and going to ARC and doing all kinds of learning fast, because those are fast-paced jobs. And then we just have a couple coaches and a couple resignations. Thanks to our coaches that, well, almost volunteer their time.
For sure. Don't do the math on that over.
No, don't do the math.
I'll make a motion to accept the personnel report.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion
I'll
carries.
make the motion to adjourn.
Does.
Second.
All right, we're
That's the
adjourned.
last time.